I adore horror as a genre, both in films and in video games. I'm a sucker for it. From the gut-wrenching tension of Outlast 1 and 2, to the grotesque and the cerebral of The Evil Within and Evil Within 2, to even the fake action horror of Resident Evil, I gobble it all up. When I used to stream on Twitch, I was told if I liked horror games that I should try out a game called Doki Doki Literature Club. This game is going to be drastically different than anything else on the channel so far, but this game, ever since playing it 3 years ago, I really haven't been able to get it out of my head. It truly is a horror masterpiece, as well as a piece of satire on the visual novel genre all in one. A very, very loud visual novel. Before we begin breaking down Doki Doki Literature Club, much like it does in the beginning of the game, I have to give a fair bit of warning before we hop into the mainstay of the video. I want to forewarn everybody that there will be topics and scenes in the video that may be disturbing to some, with lots of discussion and imagery of depression, self-harm, suicide, and the like. If that isn't your cup of tea, go check out the other videos on the channel, such as the other retrospectives or review content we've done, or the GTFO series that just started recently on the channel as well. I understand this subject is pretty fucking serious, and I hope to handle it with all the respect and with the severity it deserves. As I said, if this isn't for you, then by all means, sit this one out and stay tuned for more games coming here real soon. We're hitting up October, it's going to be horror month real soon, so we'll have a good time there for sure. If you enjoy these types of deep dives into different games of all shapes, sizes, and colors, definitely hit that subscription button down below and hit the notification bell to see when new videos go up. And if you like this video, be sure to hit the like button and leave a comment down below. Let me know what you guys think of Doki Doki and the video as a whole. Now, with that being said, let's get into the horror masterpiece that is Doki Doki Literature Club. Doki Doki Literature Club on its face is a very bright and extremely anime visual novel, and plays as such as well. If you're not familiar with the genre, and I don't blame you, but for the uninitiated, these games are more akin to interactive books, with tons of scrolling text to read, scenery changing in the background, looping music, and a ton of anime girls. Generally, these games are more of a dating sim style, with an over-dramatization of the plot and lots of flirtatious and spicy dialogue. The only break from reading is the few sections where you select words to create poems to impress said anime girls that you just want to love you. Each girl having their own personality or more impressed based off the words you select. That's the game. While still keeping this section pretty high in the sky in terms of getting into the spoiler territory, the power of this game comes from the writing and its use of the medium of the uwu dating sim to subvert all of your expectations of what this game actually is. While on the face, it seems like just your average anime girl seduction dating simulator that are a dime a dozen on Steam, if you're into that kind of game that makes it weird for a 31-year-old male to peruse the Steam store next to your wife. What lies underneath as you venture into Doki Doki is dark, real, and distinctly horrifying in a way almost every horror game I've played has never truly hit. The writing and flow of this game sticks with you, subverting all expectations along the way to leave you with a memorable, very dire experience, which is why this game has garnered such a true cult following. Before we hop over to the true spoiler side of the game, we need to talk about the two different versions of this game that you can play, one being the original and the other being the remastered and re-released plus version of Doki Doki. The game originally released on PC as freeware on Steam and itch.io, as well as on their website, and after about 3 months of being on the market, garnered over 1 million downloads, which is pretty fucking good for something that's just kind of free and out there for the world. The plus version of this game is the premium game, which is a $14.99 buy-in. The main difference is the presentation and how the endings kind of play out towards the end, with the original being far better in my opinion. Towards the end of the game, you're forced to go into the actual game files on your PC to manipulate some aspects of characters, leading to an awesome fourth wall breaking experience that Kojima would only have wet dreams over. In the plus version, it boots a virtual desktop where you do the same manipulation and making it hit not nearly as hard as the original, seeing as you're not actually messing with your own files. While the art assets and the extras are awesome in the plus version and make it actually really well worth playing just because it looks so much better, if you're playing this for the first time and you have a PC, I'd highly recommend actually playing the original. For the low price of $3.99 plus the whole ending aspect of it, it's really kind of a no-brainer for me. If you're on console, you only have access to the plus version, which is still awesome, just not as impactful with the end and all the fourth wall breaking shit. Regardless of what version you play, they both are well worth your time. But enough preamble, let's get into Doki Doki in a deeper way and why this game is a true horror masterpiece. You start the game naming your own protagonist. In my case, I named it Brendan, who is convinced by her childhood friend Sayuri to come to her literature club meeting she is a part of. Reluctantly, you agree, but to get her to leave you alone, and after class, you head to the club to be met with a room full of good-looking anime girls: Yuri, Natsuki, Sayuri, and Monika. Each of these girls fits the typical anime stereotype that if you watch the genre or play visual novels, you're very, very, very fucking familiar with. Yuri being the quiet, learned one, Natsuki being the hothead that likes cute shit, Sayuri, who's good-hearted and pretty airheady in Monika, the perfectionist overachiever or the senpai of the group. I'm getting good with my anime terms. Given the main character's desire to only hang out with these girls for obvious reasons, you join the club and go home to write some poetry, the other main mechanic of this game we discussed earlier. Essentially, you pick words that you think said girl will like, providing you with feedback with their interest by their chibi sprites jumping up and down if they like it. It is here that if you pay attention, you could tell something's just a little bit off. While words like Doki Doki and Fluffy make Natsuki jump, sophisticated words like vitality and sensation get Yuri jumping for joy. Certain words like death, depression, and pain give Sayuri the bounce. Words that seem completely antithetical to her character, and Monika is nowhere to be seen. The next 3 days, you go and show your poetry off and hang out with said girls where the one you catered your poem to is the one who's more than likely going to hang out with you. Natsuki, Sayuri, and Yuri. Once again, not Monika. For this playthrough, Yuri was the focus of my sonnets, and thus, here the story leans more into what Yuri and what she likes, and that's going to be what a lot of the footage is here that you're going to be seeing in the video itself. Things get spicy while reading books, and all the other girls do is get jealous, and the tensions rise between Natsuki and Yuri. You go to the club the next day, and you do it all again. One day, Monika lets the group know that you'll be performing poetry for the school in the Festival of Clubs, and asks that you write or select a poem to perform. You go home and write, and coming in the next day, everything seems super off. Sayuri is moping at her desk and takes a leave of absence after Monika pulls her to the side for a private discussion. In order to prepare for the festival, you need to help one of the girls over the weekend to cover their end of what they need to be doing. Yuri making decorations or Natsuki baking cupcakes. Again, I picked Yuri, so we'll go into these additional scenes in the context of the video. I'll say here that it's worth going back through the game to see all the sides that there is to see, as there is a lot of content here. Up until this point, you're pretty much your standard visual novel fare, and as someone who doesn't care too much for the genre, it was a bit of a slog. But from here, we get into the more meat of the game, and where we really begins to say something. Now, I will take the moment again to reiterate, this is the point where the game gets super fucking dark. So once again, not your cup of tea, I'm forewarning you now. There's a link to the other playlists of the other videos we've done. You can click on those. For those of you who want to stay for the rest of it, let's go ahead and get right into it. You wake up on Sunday, the day you're meant to hang out with your respective girl. You head over to Sayuri's house as she's not responded to any of your texts over the weekend and go to check on her. Going into her room, she tells you that she suffers from chronic depression and she's going through a tough spell at the moment, alluding to her having feelings for you, and now that you're spending more time with all the other girls in the club, makes her feel insufficient. She says that she'll be fine, she'll catch up with you guys on Monday. You promise to help her make it better for her and try to make her happier, and you run off to meet Yuri or Natsuki, whoever you're meeting up with that day. In my case, it would be Yuri. After spending some time with the girl and you head outside to see her off, Sayuri walks up as the protagonist and said girl are about to kiss. It gets real awkward, and in an effort to make Sayuri feel better, you embrace her and you can choose whether you want to be friends for life or admit your love to her. Sayuri, busting in a fit of tears, runs off, obviously not feeling better no matter which one you choose. Not wanting to upset her more and having a renewed effort to do anything you can to make her feel better about herself and her feelings towards you, you say that you're going to do. You wake up the next day, and Sayuri for once doesn't meet you outside to walk to school. And upon heading into the room where the literature club is, Monika shows you the poem Sayuri selected to perform for the class, while also insinuating she knew of her condition and that something may have happened. The poem is a repetition of the words "I can't get you out of my head" over and over again, a cry for help. You rush back to her house to find Sayuri has hung herself from the rafters. The player continues to plead, saying that could he have done anything different and he could have made it all better. The screen begins to be overcome with static, and all of a sudden the game shuts off. I have to say, upon playing this for the first time and even again now, the impact of the scene is still horrifying in a way you don't see in many horror games. In a lot of games I played, including Days Gone, which we'll be doing a video on here soon, you see bodies hung all over the place. But the implications set by Sayuri prior to these events, knowing that she more than likely hung herself due to her love for you and the subsequent rejection from the other girls, really hits home. It's really nothing I've ever felt or seen in a game before, and upon hitting this moment, it really kind of just stopped me dead in my tracks. And this tale is about to unravel, but already we're having a true emotional connection in a weird, inadvertent way to something that you feel like you could have prevented somehow. Now, spoilers, this is unpreventable. She will invariably hang herself, but it doesn't stop the player from wondering what he could have done different to prevent this outcome, the most drastic of outcomes that really could ever be seen from somebody suffering from some sort of depression. It's a truly harrowing scene, and we've only just started this game. And on the same token, what was Monika alluding to? There's obviously something going on between her and the rest of the girls. As we mentioned before, nothing has been able to be done to interact with her other than just the scripted events. It's obvious that she knew that something was going on with Sayuri, seeing as she pulled her off to the side and sent her home the weekend before. But not able to get Sayuri out of your mind, the player trudges on, rebooting the game and beginning again. You're met once again with the same bubbly title screen, but this time around Sayuri is completely pixelated out. The game restarts and your prior save data is wiped and the game begins again. And reaching the part where Sayuri comes into the picture, the game pixelates out and begins again, this time with no mention of her, as if she was deleted from existence. Going into school this time, you approached by Monika, who asked you to join the club as well, as they need a fourth member to make it a real club. This time, Yuri is now the vice president and you again join the literature club. The game continues as it was before, but this time lots of off-the-wall events begin to occur. Some of the text appears with black bordering around it, the characters are saying some off-the-wall shit about death and depression, Natsuki pops off the handle with blacked out pixelated eyes over and over again, and Yuri becomes more and more possessive over you, the player. At one point, Natsuki and Yuri get into the same argument as before, this time the insults cutting really deep, with Natsuki accusing Yuri of cutting her wrists, and Yuri letting out that Natsuki is alone in the world and no one actually liking her. In all this, Monika seems to be the most normal, kind of pulling you out of the room while the two go at it and apologize for their actions. Natsuki bursts out of the room and Yuri pleads with you that she didn't mean anything that she said and will you ever forgive her. Monika says it will all be okay and that Natsuki won't remember anything tomorrow. In fact, she doesn't as you go into day 3. You go in as normal and you spend time with Yuri. She will go out to get water from the fountain to go make some tea. Taking a long time, you go out to see if she's all good, only to find that she's actually out by the water fountain cutting her wrists. The game rewinds at the realization back to where she leaves and Yuri's already back with the water, leaving you to wonder if this actually happened or not. You read the poems, which are getting more and more dark as you go, Yuri being a string of broken sentences questioning the existence of God, Monika's being about the same except for the last line is delete her, and Natsuki for me being mostly the same. The conversation of the festival comes up again, and this time Natsuki is completely different about the whole thing, not wanting more people to come into the club and storms off. Yuri reflects on what happened and in the crazed second self relays about who cares about that brat and runs off. Left with Monika, she wants to ensure that you are happy and she wants to do better into making you happy and making the club a better experience. As the game begins to fade away, you see her pleading no, not yet, like something was happening that she wasn't intending, that she wants to be spending more time with you. The next day begins and you're met with a repeat of the same scene with Yuri cutting her wrist at the water fountain, this time rewinding to meet a pixelated Yuri in the hallway, having a feeling of deja vu. You go back into the classroom and read poems. Natsuki's is a bit different, however, with a letter asking you to basically get Yuri some help and see what the hell's going on with her, as something is super off and that Monika is being completely dismissive about the entire thing, and she really wants to help but she just doesn't know how to, and also at the very end ensures that you don't tell Monika anything that you read here. With that being said, in Yuri's poem, now covered in blood, and she tells you that she wants you to keep it as a memento from her, and she wants to keep your poem as well. She can have a little piece of you, in her words, to rub herself with, and to give herself tons of tiny paper cuts with a small piece of you. It's pretty fucked up. The group gets together to discuss the festival again, and in picking on who to help, Monika is insistent that you be helping her. The girls, now ganging up on Monika, accuse her of being overtly possessive over you and wants you to make the choice for yourself. As you go to select any one of the 3 girls, you'll find that your cursor seems to only go to Monika. Just Monika. This is the point in the game where the game really starts to break that fourth wall, and to be honest, this loss of control is pretty fucking impactful for the first time. No matter how you try, you can only pick Monika. Just Monika. Yuri accuses the two of trying to steal the player away from her and forces them out of the room, where she professes her love to you, an obsession for you, and asks if you feel the same. Regardless of the choice, Yuri takes out one of the knives and stabs herself, and you're forced to sit and watch her bloodied body for 3 days in the classroom with consistent scrolling text. This is one of the many ways that the game starts to begin to play with the visual novel as the medium for delivery. To have the quickest way to get past this is using the skip function, and it still takes a long time, and watch the jumbled up characters of text scroll and ad infinitum until the weekend is passed. If you go into the history of what the text actually says, all it does is repeat the description of the game that appeared on Steam over and over and over again. We've met the point where we've had our second death, and this time, as before the game completely begins to ramp up into its third act, we have to go back and look at Act 2 for a moment. There's a lot in this game that's really fucking unsettling, from imagery, from crazed eyes, and the way that the team that made Doki Doki was managed to portray all this in a visual novel style is just absolutely fantastic. The quick jump cuts, the quick sounds, the quick flashes of dialogue over and over again keep the player guessing as to what's actually going on and what's actually being said, what's real and what's not, what's part of the game and what's just some sort of weird flash of text. Half the time I thought the game was actually breaking just because of quick flashes on the screen. Yuri is by far the most honestly creepy in my mind, with her possessiveness really coming to a fold every time you read a poem. She gets a little bit weirder and weirder with it. Like that crazed stalker down the street that just wants to always be around and keep talking to you and only wants you to yourself. Natsuki in my playthrough for this one was pretty normal and pretty much the same all the way through. But from background shifts to static intruding on the scene to the character's eyes going all absolutely insane to black bordering on the text, it's all really disconnected concerning and leaves a really unsettling pit in your stomach, like something is going to happen, leading up naturally to Yuri's subsequent stabbing of oneself in the tummy. But we need to move on to Act 3, so let's continue. Back to the events. Natsuki walks in after the 3 days, barfs and runs out the room, naturally one's reaction when seeing a dead body that's been sitting there for 3 days, only to be followed by Monika, who with zero remorse eats a cupcake and in the top left corner deletes the files for both Yuri and Natsuki, once again shattering the fourth wall and taking you to a state of infinity, a classroom for only you and her visual lit by a space-like light coming from behind and casting a shadow on her form, just Monika, in front of you. Monika explains that she just wants you for herself and you are never allowed to leave. Even if you reset the game, you will go back to the same room. Monika greeting your return. She explains that everything has been her doing, accelerating Sayuri's depression leading to her suicide, making Natsuki more of an asshole and emphasizing Yuri's obsessive personality, all in an effort to want you to only be with her. She is aware she's stuck in the game and has all the power over it, and things just got out of hand when there was some unexpected errors when tampering with the other characters' game files, leading to the events that occurred. In a cool bit of data scraping, Monika also pulls your Steam name as well as some information of what you played in your Steam library recently, an awesome touch that was stripped out of a bit in the Plus version due to the creator not wanting to do any sort of data scraping on people's hard drives and also wanting it to be able to work on consoles as well. She has you write another poem, but this time every choice is just a version of her name, Monika, in just blood red pixelation on the side with some creepy ass chibi on the left, always jumping for her own name, leading to much more of a creep factor. She goes on long rants about how much she loves you, sprinkling in there that it's a good thing you never deleted her character files or she wouldn't know what to do. This is where the two versions differ yet again. The original having you actually delve into the game files from either the Steam library or from the game files actual library itself to delete the monika.car file, while in the Plus version you go into the virtual terminal to kind of do the same thing. And going back into the game, you find that Monika's blown into a bunch of pixels as she's being deleted, and while upset that you would stab her in the back like that, the game resets again. This time the other girls are back and Monika is nowhere to be seen. The game begins, but this time Sayuri brings up that she knows everything that happened and what Monika had done in the previous events, and that now she wants you all to herself and to continue what Monika had started, recalling the events that had transpired. The ghostly voice of Monika comes back, showing that she's not fully gone yet, and in an effort to stop the cycle from repeating without her, proceeds to delete the entire game off of your hard drive. Because she can't have you, no one can. Credits roll and you're left with another note from Monika. If the player attempts to reboot the game, you get an error code, forcing you to uninstall and completely reinstall Doki Doki Literature Club if you want to play again. Another touch, which is lost in the Plus version. ddlc is a game like no other, a game that is gut-wrenching, depressing, horrifying, and morbid, while also having this light anime dating sim feel on the front end. It touches on topics that are often taboo to touch, and I'm pretty sure on the YouTube algorithm side, this video is for sure flagged as such, and probably for good reason. This game is hard to play at times with the amount of truly horrific and depressing topics at play here. Unlike most things in horror games, ddlc takes things people truly go through in real life and brings it to the forefront. It doesn't take the piss out of it, doesn't skip over it. It takes the themes of suicide, depression, obsession, and self-harm and places them at the forefront of what you experience, and it feels real and realistic. Being completely juxtaposed with the dating anime sim vibe that it has going for it really kind of hammers home the nuances of the feelings that it's trying to portray in this game. For the topics that are difficult to discuss, it not only shows how extremely dark the mindscape is for someone suffering, but the end results have not helped. It's not easy to play through, but on the other end, you're met with an experience that takes these themes seriously and also wraps a truly inventive spin on a genre I don't regularly enjoy. The fourth wall breaking aspects of delving into game files, Monika being a part of the game itself in an attempt to trap you there, as well as the mouse controlling part when you try to click anybody but Monika, game resets, file deletions, and the data scraping are all an awesome touch to a game that I've never seen done before. I often think of Kojima's vision of having a game where you can only play it once, where when the player dies or fails, the game cartridge itself is made unusable. While that idea is pretty fucking costly, the act of the game essentially deleting itself at the end, forcing a reinstall, is the closest thing we'll possibly ever get to such an idea. Using the tropes of the visual novel genre to land the points home, as well as a fine touch, the text appearing different, using the skip function in the Yuri scene, and the implications that none of the choices you make actually matter really makes this game shine. I would never touch a visual novel game that looked like this, and utilizing these themes, ideas, and techniques on display here makes me glad I did. I love juxtaposition in games and having two dichotomous feelings that clash over and over again, and the anime dating sim mixed with all the depression and suicide talk really hits the nail home. In this game's first 2 to 3 hours, I won't lie, it's a bit of a fucking slog, and for someone who hates visual novels. As this was my second playthrough, this time around I found it extremely vital to how the game does a wonderful job at foreshadowing the dark aspects that are to come, making it even more sad the second time around if I'm being honest. This game isn't for everyone, and if you suffer from any sort of mental illness, I can see how this game is not for you. But as a horror game and anime clothing, this game is by far a masterpiece in almost every respect of the word, from the writing to the art to the themes the game touches on. From foreshadowing, subversion, its dark themes, and ability to shatter the fourth wall in truly masterful ways, this game, in my opinion, is an absolute must play. But now, with that, we need to wrap up Doki Doki Literature Club. I enjoyed the hell out of playing this again and felt the need to share it with everybody. I apologize for this video taking so long to get out. With the darkness of the topics at play here, I wanted to ensure that I do it some mild justice, and to be honest, the script was fairly tough to write. I also suffered the loss of my family dog on September 14th as well as had my car stolen, which didn't really have me in the headspace to write this script out. We all miss him dearly, and the car thing's now rectified, so everything should be good to go from here on out. If you made it this far, please leave a comment down below on your thoughts on Doki Doki Literature Club, and if you like this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up and check out the other videos we have here on the channel for you. It would mean a ton to me, as well as my editor Sunrax, who hopefully will be joining me again soon on creating more awesome content for you as well, as my editing style is not very good. Be on the lookout for the next episode of the GTFO series Running the Rundown, and stay tuned for another review in retrospective, the next one being of Days Gone, a game truly underrated in every sense of the word. As always, my name is Brendan, and I'll see you guys in the next one, and thank you so much for watching.